Um, it's had some good stuff and some bad stuff. So before the pandemic hit, this year already started rough for me. Um, and the pandemic wasn't, it was in line with what the year kind of seemed to be rolling out in that way. It has caused me to reflect on some things and be still in some ways. I remember at the top of the year, like a lot of like corny preachers were like 2020 vision, and this is gonna be the year you get to see, and I just kind of feel like God was like, you have no clue actually, right? So that's should have just sat there and chewed their food, but yeah, no, for me it's been things that I, like most people, right? Things that I took for granted once, I can't afford to. Some things needed to die. They needed to stop. And the pandemic forced that to happen. Some things I'm still sitting with. And I don't know, like this pandemic, my great grandmother would tell me stories and let me read stories about her mother, who had her at the beginning of the Spanish flu. And the Spanish flu is documented to have started in 1918, but it was actually a thing in 1915. It just wasn't documented. So the way that went was her mother's sister was a nurse who was tending to people with the Spanish flu right before any real knowledge of it. She passed away. And then, so she passes away in 1916. And then a year later, her mother gets pregnant in 1917 and she names her after her sister. So my great-grandmother's life is shaped entirely by the beginning of the Spanish flu, and how that just impacted the world around her. And I used to read these stories and I would hear these stories. I knew they were history, but to some degree they felt kind of folktale-ish, right? Like wow, look at this thing that you will never experience in your life. Like you're reading about this time period that you will never know anything about. Mm-hmm. And it just it feels like God and the universe were like, haha, about that. So, she talked about how everything changed. She said in some ways everything needed to. And that's kind of what I've been leaning into here. COVID has exposed so many frailties in so many of our systems that we knew existed but no one were talking about. One, because we were too busy and didn't have time to talk about it. And two, because the right people didn't see it. The clears. So it's nice to, in that way, you can't heal something until you know it's broken. And for me, that has been the gift of COVID, exposing the brokenness and literally calling us to build a whole new world. We don't have a choice now.